Hey my dear friends, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. Today we're test driving the 2022 Cadillac XT6 luxury crossover SUV. And this is a near fully loaded premium all-wheel drive model. So we're going to show it to you inside and out. We're going to take it for a drive, and then I'm going to tell you what I really think. All right, my friends, before we get out on the test drive, let's talk about what we have here. This is a near fully loaded Cadillac XT6 Premium all-wheel drive, and this has the Platinum package among other option packages and standalone options. As tested, we're pricing out at $70,000 and some change. There is more money to be spent here, but not a lot. Now, this particular vehicle fits just below the Cadillac Escalade as far as size and scope, and it shares its architecture with other General Motors vehicles in the same size class, such as the Chevrolet Traverse, the GMC Acadia, as well as the Buick Enclave. So it's going to be right in the same size range as those. Looking at the face, this has a very square-jawed design that we've come to expect from Cadillac. Very well done translation of Cadillac styling DNA in the grille, very detailed with the Cadillac crest there. And as we come out, we can see LED headlights. Looking down in the lower fascia, a lot of detailing going on down there, and the signature daytime lighting on this is the vertical blade design that we've come to expect with Cadillac in the past decade or so. Coming around the corner, this has what I think are some pretty elegantly designed 20-inch alloy wheels. I really like the way they've trimmed those out with body color wheel arch trims, and that continues down the side with body color lower rockers with a nice XT6 emblazoned piece of stainless steel finished trim. From the rear three-quarter view, we can see a subtle roofline design in the rear pillars that has a kick up on that lower window, and to me gives it a bit of a sporting appearance, a little bit less formal, let's say, than in the Cadillac Escalades we've seen in the past. The rear hatch is, of course, power operated, built-in spoiler at the top, and coming down the sides you can see LED taillights. Now these taillights have a little bit of a Cadillac fin, and you can see that in the square-shouldered look from the rear silhouette, and that really sort of echoes some of the Cadillac styling DNA that we've come to know over the decades. Looking down into the lower bumper, dual exhaust tip outlets that are functional. Air blows through them. They're not fake like some of the manufacturers out there are offering, such as Audi and Mercedes-Benz. The interior of the XT6 is very well appointed and very well outfitted with features and trims, and part of that's because this has the optional Platinum package, about $5,000, and in large part that has a lot of extra trim and upgrades to this interior, and that starts with these semi-aniline leather seats, which have a very nice finish on them. They are both heated and ventilated, and also heated in the second row, and the dash is wrapped with leather, suede and fine finish leather across the dash. And it's not just there, it's on the door panels, it's on the steering wheel pad, and it's also on the console. They've literally wrapped most of the entire plastics we would normally see in the interior with leather. It's very nice. The steering wheel very nicely appointed with the hand-stitched leather airbag cover, the carbon fiber-like trim, paddle shifters for the 9-speed automatic transmission, and ahead of it, a very traditional instrument cluster in a world that's gone all digital. It does have a large center screen, which is digital, but on the sides, traditional analog gauges. You can customize that center screen just about any way you want it. These seats, though, while they are nicely upholstered and heated and ventilated, it's always good, I find that in the overall context of this vehicle, which has a nice soft cushy ride, very luxurious, they tend to be a bit firm in my opinion, which doesn't make them uncomfortable so much, but it does make them a little bit out of context with the rest of the character of the vehicle. They do offer a good level of adjustment, so getting a right spot is quite easy. Looking at the center stack, very traditional in its layout and quite simple, I might add. 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system at the top, HVAC controls in the center. There's a small cubby right here, but it's not quite large enough for a phone or anything like that. You can stuff a few little things there. There's actually a nice slot right here to set your phone, which is a nice place to put it out of the way. But if you're someone who likes to have it laying where you can glance at it and see what's going on if it flashes, that slot's not really going to be for you. But right here, a slide open cover, which gives you access to cup holders, which are off to the side, a nice touch. You can hide those away. An electronic toggle shifter off to the side, and then controls for the infotainment system just behind that. Center console storage is pretty easy to access. There's a small tray here. I've got my sunglasses in there, and there's enough space down there, I'd say, for about a square tissue box. That's a little bit larger than that, but that's a good measure for getting an idea of it. As you can see, your rear seat passengers are going to enjoy a pretty commendable amount of space. These seats are set for my height, about 5'8", a little higher than that with these shoes that have a higher heel. And so as you can see with the seat set for that, I have plenty of leg room back here. And with the captain's chairs, the seating height is in a pretty comfortable space. Now these don't have a lot of side bolstering, but what they do have are fold down armrests, which allow you to sort of really support yourself. And I love that when you have captain's chairs. When it comes to amenities back here, we have the aforementioned moonroof, which gives a lot of light and airiness. And this does have heated seats on the second row. Now these do fold forward and slide so that you have access to the third row seat. Now I'm not going to be getting back there today, but it does have room for real adults, a pretty good level of leg room. Now these second row chairs do slide forward and back so that you can adjust the space that your passengers have in that third row. Now, of course, these all do fold down, and the great thing about these is that they fold down at the press of a button. You can stand at the back corner of the vehicle and effortlessly fold down all 4 of these single seats and give yourself a flat load floor. Amenities back here for the second row include HVAC controls on the back of the console and power ports down below. There's also a handy little slide out drawer that has some extra storage down there, as well as cup holders, since we don't have a seat here with a fold down armrest to give you that. While you might not have seen HVAC vents at the back of the console, they're actually up here in the roof. This does have 3-row HVAC and vents back there for the third row as well. Here in Arizona, when it gets hot, that's golden. When it comes to rating this interior, I am very impressed. Cadillac in the past has not always impressed me because while they dress it up with a lot of nice trims like leather and carbon fiber and things like that, you often still have some of the cheap parts and pieces that you might find in other vehicles like Chevrolet or Buick. But here, this has a consistent level of quality all the way through. And the only thing I complain about is that these seats are a little bit on the firm side, not uncomfortable, but just a little bit more firm than you'd expect in the context of this vehicle, but not a big deal. This interior gets 5 out of 5 stars. The infotainment system here is what Cadillac calls Q, Cadillac User Experience. I find that it's generally the same as most General Motors infotainment systems. 8-inch screen, and it is fully featured with a lot of content. It has Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and that's wireless. Bose 14-speaker audio system, and it's a very good one at that. Sirius XM radio. It has Bluetooth connectivity for your devices as well as NFC, which is another way of connecting up and getting some extra bandwidth there. The menus I find very easy to use. They're well laid out. The graphics are good and they're crisp. The only complaint I have here is that it is a smaller screen than a lot of the competition is offering these days. It does have a 360-degree camera, and because of that, it's really hard to argue with overall. It responds well to your touch, and it just works quite well. The system gets 5 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, now it's time to take a drive, and the first question I always like to ask is, how does it go? So, nobody around? Kind of leisurely off the line. Nice sound, though. And 60. All right. So this is a pretty heavy vehicle, right around 4,600 pounds as tested, and I did have it in sport mode. This has a number of drive modes: Tour, all-wheel drive, Sport, and an all-weather mode for slippery surfaces. And the Sport mode typically gives you quicker shifts and stiffer feeling, steering, things like that. But I wanted to use it for acceleration. Now this has a 3.6 liter V6 under the hood. This engine has 310 horsepower and 271 pound-feet of torque, which is right in line with competitive engines of the same size range. I do find that it has a nice sound. It has a good level of refinement, and with the 9-speed automatic transmission that it has, tends to work pretty well. Downshifts are delivered in a pretty refined way with this transmission, and these paddle shifters on the steering wheel tend to work pretty well, meaning that when you actually use them, it gives you an instant response most of the time. It has a number of features, including active fuel management, which helps it to save fuel. It goes down to a V4 when you don't need the extra power. And it also has idle auto stop start, which is not one of my favorite features, because you come to a stoplight like right now, the engine shuts off, air conditioner starts smelling like a gym sock and getting stale, and then it has a brief second of delay when you let off the brake and go to take off again. I find it very annoying. Luckily, you can turn it off, which you have to do every time you start the car because it defaults to on. So if you don't like the feature, get used to turning it off. When it comes to efficiency, this is rated at 18 city, 25 highway, and 21 mpg combined. In my week with it, I only saw about 19 combined. Air conditioner has been on. It's summertime now here in Arizona, even though we're only still in April. It's technically summer now. If you have something to tow, this does have a rating of 4,000 pounds with this engine. It has adequate power, and really the major disappointments here are the fact that it's not all that efficient, and I have to deal with systems like idle auto start stop, which isn't a necessity in vehicles like this. It's a choice from the manufacturer. So this powertrain gets 4 out of 5 stars. On the topic of ride, drive, and handling, that's really where I think this vehicle shines. It is traditional Cadillac in its form. It's got a very quiet ride around town. It has sort of a cushy level, which is to say it's just got a slight level of float and a nice level of compliance, but this does have the adaptive dampers that are constantly adjusting. So it allows that level of compliance, but the minute you start dialing up your steering inputs, your braking inputs, your acceleration, it stiffens those dampers up to give you a little bit more of a tighter response than vehicles that just have a soft suspension to start with. So I like the fact that it does have these adaptive dampers because you can feel them working. You go over speed humps and undulations and things like that, you can feel it reacting a lot like a cat does when they jump, when they land, and things like that. But otherwise, they're going along and slinking smoothly. So that really makes the suspension work for me on this vehicle. Noise level on the freeway, 63.3 decibels at 70 miles an hour in our 1 mile test. That's about average, not quieter than most, not noisier than most. That's right down the middle. So I would venture to guess that some of the luxury vehicles out there probably tend to be a little quieter. That could be attributed to these larger tires and wheels. It is not wind noise, it's all about the road noise. But steering feel is pretty light. When you put it on sport mode, it stiffens up just a little bit. Overall though, this is a very comfortable, luxurious vehicle to drive around town. This chassis gets 5 out of 5 stars. As always, we end our video with a conversation about value and competition. Now with luxury vehicles, that's always a little bit of a delicate one because we don't need a luxury vehicle, right? It's something we want. It's something we want to treat ourselves to above and beyond the standard everyday transportation. Thus, we're not always looking at spreadsheets with the competitors and options pricing to see how we get the best bang for our buck. Some people do, but most of the time with a luxury vehicle, it's about style. It's about imagery, about do I like that brand or not? How does it make me feel? What do I look like in it? Honestly, that's what a lot of people really sort of measure these things with. And so with this vehicle, we do have some key competitors that are right close, that being the Lincoln Aviator being the closest one in my opinion. We've also got some models from Lexus. Hyundai Palisade, believe it or not, at the top of its trim levels, right in the same wheelhouse. But closer even still are the Genesis models, GV70 and GV80. They're very close to the scope here, but Lincoln Aviator, the Genesis models, those are rear-wheel drive based, as are the Germans. And so you get into some mechanical differences that set them apart in how they drive. But let's look at the dollars and cents and how the quality and warranty stack up. Warranty here, 4 years, 50,000 miles, bumper to bumper, 6 years, 70 powertrain. Not the top warranty in the business. Hyundai and Genesis beat that by a long margin. When we look at quality, this was very well built. No rattles, no squeaks. For a General Motors product, I was very impressed. So All in, I put value at 4 out of 5 stars. When you put that in with everything we've already talked about here, we're at 4.5 stars for the review. Very good. So if you like what we do here, please follow us on social media. You can see all of our channels down below in the information section, Test Driven TV across the board. See your latest video right there. Or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel right down there.